Now, obviously, during the controversy over whether Americans should engage in these non-importation agreements, whether to boycott tea and other goods, if you were going to do that successfully, women's participation was going to be crucial because women were important as consumers and were important as tea drinkers. And many women did engage in public boycotts of tea. You can find them coming together and joining spinning circles to make homespun cloth and to kind of show their patriotism by engaging in public forms of boycotting and of non-importation. Now, this too creates controversy, right? Some women were attacked by patriots because they were said, oh, well, women are weak and they're not going to uphold the boycott because they're going to be too tempted, they're too subject to temptation. Other women were attacked by supporters of government, the people who are going to become loyalists, for participating in politics in the first place. Women have no business engaging in these public boycotts because they shouldn't be participating in public life at all. And so women find themselves attacked by both sides, but you can also find women defending themselves in print by saying that they did have a right to participate in public life in this way, and that they, for patriotic women, would brag that they were made of the stern stuff that would enable them to resist British goods if it meant saving their country and saving and making America safe for their posterity. But there are a number of interesting stories that you can see about women and their participation in these tea boycotts. Abigail Dwight, for instance, was the 48-year-old former headmistress of a boarding school for Mohawk girls in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and she was visiting Boston in June of 1769 during one of the non-importation agreements, and she wrote to tell her daughter that she was feeling ill because she had been drinking coffee in the afternoon at what she called a high liberty house. In other words, at someone's home where they supported the American colonists' non-importation agreement. So she couldn't drink tea, that was verboten, but she was drinking coffee instead, and it made her stomach hurt. And she said, not a drop of tea will one soul of them drink in Boston unless you were at the house of a government official, and then you could drink it. But interestingly, Abigail was unwilling to give up tea completely herself. At home, I may drink it, she said. So somehow, despite the fact that it was considered socially bad form to drink tea, you could drink it privately. You could get it somehow, and you could continue to drink tea. So this is one of the things that was happening. Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross, remembered hearing that her grandmother, Dorothy, and her great-aunt, Martha Moore Ballard, were sipping tea in the cellar while her great-uncle was away, because he was a staunch supporter of the Patriots. And so it's interesting. Some of women's fondest memories of these non-importation agreements were these little family rebellions, right? Drinking tea while the men of the house were away. So what we can see is that some women joined men's vocal rebellion against the tea and showed their public spiritedness that way. But other women quietly used the tea boycotts as a platform to stage their own little rebellion against men's authority. So in spite of all these controversies, one thing to remember is that Americans in the 18th century loved drinking tea. They gave it up after 1773, not because of the Boston Tea Party and having a prejudice against tea, but because when their own avenues to China and Great Britain were cut off, they eventually turned to coffee, which could be grown in the Western Hemisphere in places like Jamaica and Brazil. And that's mostly the reason why America became more of a coffee-drinking country than a tea-drinking country, unlike Great Britain.